Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. There's a storm passing overhead and will be probably for the duration of the show. So you're going to hear intermittent rain, maybe some thunder. Heard a couple claps of thunder come through, but it's going to be a packed show today. I've got some brand new surprise, original revelations, connections that we had not made before that are helping us make sense of everything that's happening around us. Today we're going to get into golden domes. We're going to get into the Jedi money goat and the extinction of pennies. All of this has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. And finally, a real discussion about the controlled demolition of BlackUSA. Now, let's get started. Back in 2022, when it looked like Trump was done forever, I told you that he would be reelected, but not only that he would be reelected, that it would be a very different Trump in the second term. We described it then as a Janus or Gemini aspect or version of Trump. We probably did about a dozen videos on the whole Gemini Janus aspect and what we were to expect. And I think everyone can agree that we were right over the target in that prediction. I may re-upload some of those videos, the two faces of Trump, at some point, so you can see the accuracy. Now, let's get started with this golden dome. Wait, Casey, it's not a golden dome. It's an iron dome. Nope. It's a golden dome. Are you ready for this? This is Israel's Iron Dome. And of course, we've all heard by now that Trump says he is going to make a version of this in America. Well, as I was reading through this, I found that the original name of the Iron Dome was supposed to be the Golden Dome. Let's take a look. In 2004, the idea for the Iron Dome gained momentum with the installation of Brigadier General Daniel Gold, as the head of research and development of the Israel Defense Forces. Gold was a strong backer of the anti-missile project. So the guy that actually set it up, his name was Daniel Gold. Let's look at this guy real quick. Sometimes, oh look, they won't tell you his actual birthday. They just say he was born in 62. But let's keep going here. So, Golden was the name of the guy, or Daniel Gold, but there's more. Scroll this page here. It says here, the system itself, we thought of Golden Dome was the original name. Suggested the name Tamir for the missile, and for the system itself, we thought of Golden Dome. The following Sunday, Tamir was immediately approved, but there was a problem with Golden Dome. It could be perceived as ostentatious, so it was changed to Iron Dome. Now, this is interesting, isn't it? Because I suspect any day now, or as this Iron Dome that Trump is building, starts to come online, I almost guarantee you he's going to rename it the Golden Dome. We'll see if that happens, but based on this history, that's probably what will happen. So let's get into some other things, some other parts of the show. Do you remember all the shows that we did on the Jedi? One show in particular comes to mind. It was called The First Jedi. And who was the first Jedi? Well, it was in the Bible. The first Jedi was Jedediah. Jedediah, who later took on the name Solomon. He built the temple without tools, likely by using a lightsaber, filled with crystals of light and perfection, which are actually described in the Bible as two different crystals called the Urim and the Thummim, which are in the breastplate of the high priest. And one was thought to be able to cut through solid objects, and one crystal could levitate heavy objects. However, we know that Solomon eventually went to the dark side after marrying an Egyptian woman and taking on her occult belief system. We then did a video connecting Solomon to the Star Wars franchise and the raising of the Jedi ceremony. Remember, the Jedi was this pillar. And we looked at the scene where Yoda raised the X-Wing fighter obelisk out of the swamp. And we realized that the raising of the Jedi was short for Jedi. Now, we also realized that Yoda's name even is from the Hebrew. It's from the Hebrew letter Yod, which means an action or a force. We then saw connections to Trump, who is probably an old Egyptian Jedi. And that brings us to today and this brand new piece of information to add to this fascinating story and all these connections. The word Jedi in Hebrew actually means goat, kid goat. And this might explain this image. Whoops. Pull the tab out here. Sorry, guys. What's going on my computer? Let's get that back over here. That might explain this image of Trump. Standing and staring in the mirror. Now, I don't know what I did with that image, but it was here a minute ago. Let's see if we can find it. Now, what is this all about? Well, we're going to break this down. Here it is. We're going to break it down in detail. This was Trump Jr. He uploaded this image of his father looking at himself in the mirror. Men Who Stare at Goats, which was a movie based off of the Stargate program. So everything's coming full circle into a complete timeline that points backwards and forwards in time, connecting all of these events together decisively. So, what is all this about? Well, let's keep going down some rabbit holes here. I had to look back and see if a goat was actually associated with the ancient Egyptian Jed, or the ancient Egyptian pillar. So I looked, and it absolutely was. So we were right over the target. The Jedi is the goat. This is it right here. The ancient Egyptian god, Banjedet. And as you can see, it has 4 goat heads as its head, and it has the Jed in the name, which Jedi means goat. Now we know why Jed's in the name, because it's a 4-headed goat god, or a ram. Now, there's a little bit more to this. Jedit, or they call him Banjedet, because this god also goes by the name Mendes. Mendes is his other name in the Greek. And guess what? His father, he was actually the father of Horus, according to ancient Egyptology. The father of Horus. And they explain in this Wikipedia article that the soul, the word for soul, is the same word as the word for goat. And that Ged was one of the first gods to rule over Egypt. It almost describes like a trinity. So these were the false gods. It says here, he may also be linked to the first 4 gods to rule over Egypt. Wow. So, goat and Jedi confirmed. Now, I know the spelling's a little bit different. It's Gedi, but remember, G can also be pronounced with a J. Now, let's hop off of that and get into the extinction of the penny. By now, you've heard Trump has signed an executive order to basically cancel the penny. Now, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was the first pin to fall in the covert demolition of private cash. They have to start somewhere. It's gradualism. Now, we called this out during Trump's first presidency, didn't we? Remember the coin shortage? And we postulated that the dime, the nickel, and the quarter, that all have copper cores, were being harvested to make copper wire for all of these 5G network base stations that were going up during the pandemic while we were all locked in our homes. They were going up everywhere and they needed copper. What easier way to get copper if you're the government and Trump had just signed an executive order than to just pull it out of circulation? Every single one of the copper cores of the quarter, the dime, and the nickel, they all have copper cores. You can look it up. They have a significant amount of copper in the core as well. Not just a little bit. It's like 70 to 80% of the coin is made up of a copper core. Now, pennies, since the 1980s, only have a copper coating. But they have to start somewhere. So pennies are the sacrifice. And then they'll come for the rest of the copper later. And they're going to need all of it. Why? To build Stargate AI. Think of the amounts of copper inside of these data centers. And this, of course, will segue us into the digital currency. So it's almost like a snake eating its tail. They're going to consume all of the pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters. The serpent will consume it and then build the beast. And do you think this won't have to do with buying and selling at some point? Of course it will. So here we are again in Trump's second presidency. And again, it's all about the coins. The two have to be connected. Coins are under attack. It's a pattern. No more privacy and complete control. Now, oh, Casey, but I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Good for you. But guess what? We won't need tax returns anymore because everything is going to be digital. The only reason for tax returns is to account for the cash aspect of your income. That's the only reason why they allow us to file a tax return and then give us the option to pay taxes, right? Is what they say. But eventually, once everything's digital, there won't be a need to file a tax return. They'll just deduct directly from you. There won't be an option to pay. And they'll come out and say, oh, this is great because now the rich people have to pay their fair share and there's no way out of it anymore. But the rich people are the ones that make the rules. And we've also talked at length about, that ceiling of just getting by in life. And the taxes are much more invasive into our lives, lower and middle class people, than they are to rich people. Because rich people don't have to worry about how they're going to pay their electric bill. They don't have to worry about when their car is going to break down. They don't have to worry about if their landlord kicks them out. They don't have to worry about 90% of the stuff that we worry about. Now, you can argue they worry about different things, but guess what? If someone gave you $1 billion, you wouldn't really care if you lost $1 million here and $1 million there. No big deal. You're never going to be poor because these people have backup plans, don't they? So that's how it works. And they want us all to believe that they struggle too, but they really don't. Not the way we do in terms of how we're going to live our lives. Now, this is where everything's headed. It's all going to be digital. Taxes are just going to simply be removed from your account. And there won't be any tax returns. Now, I'd be glad if there were no tax returns if I thought everything was going to be fair. Because you know how much it costs to pay an accountant these days? Some people's tax returns cost between $300 and $500, $600. And if you're running a business, it could be into the thousands of dollars just to file a tax return. But here's the downside. Full digital surveillance state. All of your transactions tracked. And your account will just be debited. It'll be debited for law enforcement infractions and anything else they want to debit your account for. Some point, even a social media score or a social score where you get docked for what you're doing on social media. Now, Trump wrote a book. Many of you will remember this book, The Midas Touch. Remember this? Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki. This was all the way back, let's see, was this 2011? And he was kind of piggybacking off of the whole Art of the Deal, as well as The Apprentice show, I believe, is what was going on in this era of Donald Trump. The Midas Touch. Now, this book actually talks about the principles of how to amass wealth, but the critics of the book said it left out the most important part, which would be, of course, the logical steps, step by step, exactly how Trump did it. Right? Or people like him do it. No one ever talks about that. You don't learn it in college. All they do is throw you bones and tell you about concepts. But they never tell you, okay, do this. It doesn't tell you, okay, work, save up 10 grand and then do this next. And then do that next. No one ever wants to tell us how they get rich. It's a big secret, isn't it? The reason why it's a big secret is because if they told us the truth, middle and lower class people would be enraged because they would realize that it's impossible to build that wealth unless you are in the secret club that shows you how to trick the system. And immediately, if everybody did know how to do it, the rich people would lose all their wealth and all their power. So they just dangle carrots. And people with, dumb people, let's call it what it is, buy these books and think, I'm going to get some inspiration and I'm going to be like Trump. And this is how these people amass even more wealth from all the people buying their books. Because they think if I can get close to Trump and read about how he got rich, then I could be rich too. Now, the truth about how to amass wealth, we talked about some of the ways these people do it, is through already having amassed the wealth by being in a long bloodline of insiders. These people then pay politicians to make policies that directly affect the market, and then they bet on those market changes that are coming. What are you talking about, Casey? Prime example. Now, you're getting a little bit of a taste of it when you come to this channel. There are people that follow this channel, believe it or not, so they can plan their investments. Because we've been over the target. Talking about the rise of AI, the rise of copper, lithium, all these things were talked about before they became mainstream. Because we knew that the end goal was this AI running everything. And now here we are. And now they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars. We're approaching $1 trillion in spending. So had you bet on that, you'd probably be a millionaire. Now, I don't encourage you to do that, and neither do I do that. Because that's basically feeding the beast. We're not supposed to do that. But understand that that's a little taste into what the elite do and how they make their money. Prime example, Nancy Pelosi just bet on all of the stuff that's happening right now. She's on the other side of the aisle. How the heck did she know? Because they all work together. And I hope you finally understand this. They all work together. They're helping each other. That's how Nancy Pelosi knew. That's how they knew. And if that doesn't wake you up and how you're being played, they'll let you buy the book and talk about all the generalizations, but there's never, ever, ever a step-by-step. And this is how these people get rich. They tie into government. Government makes policy. They bet on the policies that they already know are coming. It's insider trading all the way through. They also find ways to not have to pay taxes. And once you break through that ceiling where you're not worried about the day-to-day life, and these people just sit around all day. They have consultants and things, talk about how to invest. They probably send them into the government and go, okay, what's next? What's for the next 5 years? Oh, Stargate AI, which started building 3 years ago. This is the next big thing. But did they tell any of you that that was the next big thing 5 years ago? No, because if they told you, then you would have to believe that it didn't matter who was going to become president, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. It didn't matter. Instead, they had you distracted about the border. They had you distracted about all the things that keep you poor and keep you giving them the power so they could get more rich. Now, what else is going on? Wait, let's back up here. Midas touch. Oh, let's go back to this penny story because, well, you guys have already heard. Trump plans to scrap them. Didn't come out of nowhere. So that's it. It's over. Pennies are gone. Now, let's get into this bizarre sculpture that just broke out of Mar-a-Lago. Internet reacts to a golden hoofed Trump cash covered goat idol at Mar-a-Lago, and the statue is covered in $100 Trump bills that say, "In Trump we trust," replacing God with Trump. Now, this came out a couple days ago, and this is blasphemy all the way through. This thing is laden in these $100 bills. And this is the beginning of Trump starting to troll his own Christians. Because if you try to defend this, then you are going down a very dark road. Now, he's doing this intentionally. This is why he erected this at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, but the people will say, oh, that was a gift. What is he supposed to do, Casey? No, 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 no. In Trump we trust. Some of you noticed that it was standing on a black rock. You're absolutely correct. In Trump we trust. No. Wow. It says 2024, which of course last year re-elect Trump. So these are bills that were probably made in advance. Now, understand that this is the segue into getting you to worship the beast. When you defend these things, instead of calling a spade, okay, imagine if Kamala Harris was on the front of this, $100 bill and it said, "In Kamala we trust." The Christians would be going insane. They'd probably pull their hair out. But when Trump does it, it's okay. No big deal. And once you worship the image of the beast, Revelation is very, very clear. It will result in your place in eternal damnation and hell. Not me talking here. This is Revelation and what it says. So, creepy nonetheless. Now, we had showed you stuff out of Mar-a-Lago. There's so much in this place. It actually predicted his presidency. It's got 58 bedrooms. And he purchased it long before he would win the 58th presidential quadrennial election, 58 years after 1958. But yet, Mar-a-Lago had 58 bedrooms. I think it had 33,000 square feet of something space, or 33 bathrooms. I can't remember. Trump is the master mason. He always has been. He's the builder. This is what he does. Now, some people are calling this a golden calf. I mean, there's all kinds of connections here. It being a goat. Someone else mentioned that Gulf of America, signed by Trump, that's G-O-A-T, Gulf of America, Trump, goat. So it appears to me we have found the MAGA Jedi, Donald Trump. Now, other things we had found at Mar-a-Lago, there was actually a tweet that went out from Melania years ago. I think it was like 2017. It's probably still on her account if you know how to search Twitter. And she was out on the patio, and there was a statue of Pan. Pan with the hooved feet, holding panpipes and whistling right there in the sculpture on the patio. And she said she was having tea on the patio. Now, the form of Pan was a baby, but it was Pan nonetheless. We also found the artist that did all these murals inside of Mar-a-Lago. There was a scene from Gulliver's Travels. And the very person that wrote that book, if I remember correctly, actually did the murals inside Mar-a-Lago. So it was all about the giants. So this place is steeped in the occult. If you ever have a chance to go through Mar-a-Lago, take pictures for me and send them, because I'm sure there's much, much more that's not even published. But you guys, this is insane. God is only going to put up with this for so long. He's only going to put up with the false worship and the idolization of this man for so long, despite all of the quote unquote good he's doing, which I agree. We need to do something about illegal immigration, right? But at what cost? Because all of this digital ID and everything is going to be rolled out to the rest of us. They're just testing it on the illegals. Okay. Now, understand that all these Stargate AI data centers are now expanding to other locations outside of Abilene, Texas. We covered the data center in Abilene, Texas. And now they're expanding outwards. They're literally saying that they want to build 10 campuses in total. That has to be the 10 crowns or the 10 kings of Revelation on some level. I'm not saying it is the final manifestation of that prophecy, but why the number 10? These data centers will rule over us. They will be like kings or crowns. Look at this. Wonder why your electricity bill keeps going up? According to this, data centers consumed 4.4% of all U.S. electricity in 2023, and that's expected to increase over 10% up to 12% of the total usage of electricity by 2028. Literally 1/10 of the electricity used is going through a computer. Now, Trump is promising to make more electricity than we'll ever want or need. So maybe the costs won't go up. I don't know. But this is getting really weird. Now, if you don't know, Trump did a press briefing aboard Air Force One on his way to the Super Bowl. I missed that, but apparently I found it. And he was flying over the Gulf of America. And he said that he started with 12 tech guys with high IQs. I don't know if you guys caught that comment. And now he says there are 100. So, the marriage of it all coming together, ruling over us. Now, let's go back to this Super Bowl. I'll put links to all this stuff. Let me check in with you guys. We're going to go to the Super Bowl here. And I'm going to prove to you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that Trump likely knew that Kansas City was going to lose. He knew, he was told, and I'm going to prove it to you. And the key here is Patrick Mahomes' wife. You ready for this? Did you guys hear this story about Mahomes' wife and Taylor Swift? What did you guys hear? Let's go in here. Yeah, we talked about Gaza yesterday because Trump's saying basically he's going to turn into a Riviera and he's not allowing the people to move back in, essentially, is what he said. For now. He says for now. I think he said that on Air Force One. They're not going to let those people move back in. It's over. So, do you guys hear the story about Mahomes and Taylor Swift and why they weren't sitting together? Because that was really creepy, right? Why weren't they sitting together? I thought this was it. I thought, everybody knew Kansas City was going to win. What better time for Mahomes' wife to be hanging out with the number one pop star in the world? There you go. Seeker of truth. Nope. Well, it was a little bit different. Let's take a look. There's a news story on it. Wow. Why Brittany Mahomes was allegedly instructed to keep her distance from Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. She was instructed to keep her distance from Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. Now, here's what's weird. Imagine being Mahomes, the quarterback, and going, that's weird. Unless he already knew too. His performance was dismal. Several interceptions. Some of them almost looked intentional. But check this out. They're now saying that she got the word from the Trump. She got like a warning saying that Trump was going to say something bad about Taylor Swift. Now, why would Trump say something bad about Taylor Swift if he thought Kansas City was going to win? That would be stupid, right? That would be cringe. That would be out of touch. Imagine if Kansas City won and then Trump said, he knew they were going to boo her. Does this make sense? He knew. He knew they were going to lose. And therefore, she was told not to hang out with Swift. They're all in on it. He knew he was going to have the opportunity to roast her. Because imagine, what if Taylor Swift got cheered? Well, then Trump would have nothing to say, and then Brittany would be hanging out with Taylor, right? Do you see what's happening here? We're all getting rope-a-doped. They knew ahead of time. Let's read this. Swift and Brittany attended this year's Super Bowl to support their partners. But they were seated in separate suites to watch the game. The move raised eyebrows, especially since their partners play for the same team. Up to this point, they were all hanging out, attending the games together. Sources suggest that Brittany was instructed to sit away from Taylor Swift during the game because of Trump attending the game. She was instructed to do so. The source also claimed the instruction was intended to shield Brittany from potential backlash from remarks that Trump might make while attending the game. Well, if Kansas City would have won, that would have been dumb for him to make any remark about Taylor Swift, right? Do you see the logic here, what I'm trying to get at? I'm probably not explaining it very well, but everyone was forewarned that Trump would likely reference Taylor in one way or another, and he did, said the source, referencing Trump's mocking social media remarks to Swift after the Chiefs' loss. Wow. Now this is why we read between the lines, so we can catch these people in their lies. This is important because if you're not critically thinking, you just go along. You go along with all this and no big deal, nothing to see here, move along. But this almost proves that he knew. Now, someone also mentioned, what was it? Ivanka was wearing like a green dress or something, signaling that the Eagles would win. And nobody thought the Eagles would win, right? Now, let's have a real discussion about what's going on in Black America and race relations. I don't know if you heard this, and I forgot to mention this during or after the halftime show during the Decode. Kendrick Lamar literally said, "Rig the game," in the lyrics. Apparently this was part of the lyrics. of the show. Rig the game. And another thing I forgot to mention is it said game over at halftime. How did they know the game was already over? And the Eagles were already blowing out the Chiefs. Now, I get a lot of heat for my take on race relations. Most of my black peers mistake my realism about race relations as insensitive or out of touch. But it's because you're not thinking deep enough. And I'm going to demonstrate this to you today. What you don't realize and you don't see is how we as black people are being gaslighted. Not by our white peers, not by you and me that are all on the same level, but by the controllers. They're gaslighting white people and they're gaslighting black people. It's literally a controlled demolition of our race by giving us the tools of our own destruction. You guys, it's been put on display. Diddy, Kanye West. And what the controllers do is they elevate the worst of black race so that they can put it on display for the rest of the culture. So everybody can point and say, see, this is what black people are like. And we are nothing like that. And so what this does is that it quietly stokes anti-black sentiment in other races as they allow the clowns of the black culture to rise to the top. Instead of the well-spoken, centered, educated black people, which, believe it or not, you would never know this by watching entertainment media, is the majority. It would be, okay, everybody saw the TV. Let's give you a white version of this, okay? Everybody saw the TV show Ozarks. And they show a bunch of people in trailer parks. Now imagine if they took the trailer park people and they basically convinced everybody that all white people are like trailer park people. White people would be mad. They'd be like, that's not representative of normal white America. You would be upset. So why don't I get to be upset when they show us the worst version of black people? Now, what the controllers do is insidious. It's no different than allowing a court jester to make a fool of themselves. And this psyop is multifaceted. It's intricate. Because on many levels, black people give credence and respect to the people who they believe made it to the top. Now, if you take this a step further, people also emulate these people, which then spreads the dysfunction like a disease to the rest of the culture. As people emulate this because they think this is what success means. Now, it makes me so mad that other people of color don't understand this. Instead, they'll attack the person trying to tell them the truth. I'm going to give you specific examples so you can visualize how they are gaslighting black people and white people who observe them with the ultimate goal of a controlled demolition of race relations. Now, let's go back to this Kendrick Lamar show. Okay. They're already racially dividing the show along MAGA lines. They're literally saying that MAGA is outraged and angry about this. They're making this political. And it shouldn't be. Right? Now, I don't particularly dislike Kendrick Lamar. He's kind of in the middle in terms of, black examples, black leadership in my mind. Okay. But we can all agree that this new form of rap music appeals to a very narrow segment of society, doesn't it? And therefore, a lot of people were out of touch with the performance. So that proves my point right there. And it's apparent to me that also somebody seemed to have sabotaged his microphone. I mean, it was hard to hear the lyrics to begin with, but it was even more unintelligible because you couldn't, that something was going on with his mic. The music in the background was overpowering the lyrics. And it was painful to watch. But we as black people have been programmed to accept this and even defend it because we've already convinced ourselves that it's only because others don't like it because it's black. This is what we tell ourselves. And that they're just trying to take the shine off of the limelight of black success. But that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is that this style of music was intentionally allowed by the controllers to proliferate to further pigeonhole black culture into something unrelatable for most people. It's divide and conquer. The controllers have rigged the game. Now, Trump is part of all this. He's doing his part. He has also elevated the worst of us so that they can be seen on the world stage as clowns. We have mentally ill Kanye West playing his role as pimp with his fully naked arm candy, Bianca Sensori. And I'm not going to show you pictures of this because it's just unbelievable. She's literally walking around naked. And everyone's okay with this. Now understand, she's been paid to do this, to complete the look. To complete the look, to enrage white people. Right? Because he's a pimp. I hope you're understanding this. Now, everybody knows that Kanye West is mentally ill and that he has no talent. And his persona has taken on a mind of its own. Recently, he just called for P. Diddy's release. And he's been making like pointless anti-Semitic comments. And I say pointless because his comments don't do anything to expose the real truth. All it does is fuel the fire, which will lead to none of us being able to say anything about those people in power. And never forget, Donald Trump invited this lunatic to the White House so that Black Clown World can be on full display. Do you see now how what Kanye and Trump are doing has nothing to do with race relations between you and I? On our level, it's a show, a very dysfunctional show. Now, it's pretty rare that white people are exposed to these extremes of black culture because most black people do not act like this, like Kanye West or Kodak Black. So he is an extreme version of black people that is intentionally being magnified to make other black people look like idiots. Now, here's where we're going to get into some of the spiritual aspects of this. Kanye is a Gemini. So is Trump. And this is where we're going to go really deep because Trump pardoned another Gemini, Kodak Black. And he's also an extreme version of black culture, mentally ill. Well, guess what? Kodak Black has fallen apart. Now, I already saw his mental instability back when Trump pardoned him. He called Trump, Kodak Black called Trump a super gremlin. And Kanye West said Trump had dragon energy. Now, understand why Trump would pardon such an individual. It's to further the black clown role. He's basically enabling them. Now, Kodak Black has fallen apart, and mentally ill Kanye West says he's going to help mentally ill gremlin Kodak Black. What happened to Kodak Black? Well, he was filmed here. I'm going to play it for you. Sitting in the middle of the street eating a plate of chicken. Do you see how they're turning us into clowns? We have to reject these role models. Call it for what it is. It's trying to make us look bad. Let's play this video. This is insane. Now, this is real talk. You're not going to hear this from anybody else. Okay? Let's let this load up here. Is it going to play?
So take a seat next to him. Enjoy that food. Enjoy that. Take a seat next to him, brother. In the streets, understand. Talk to the people. Okay. I want to be part of that shit, bro.
This is who Trump pardoned. Do you see now how they're just making fun of us? That's the goal. He didn't do it because he thought Kodak Black was cool or he was trying to help black people. There's a million other black people he could have pardoned. Maybe an attorney, a black attorney, or anybody else. This is to put on display the dysfunction of black culture, which really isn't a thing, but it's happening from the top down. It's programming. There's a term I want to use, but I can't because it would be seen as racially insensitive. But it has to do with rope. And what happens when you give someone enough to basically, you know the rest of the sentence. Now, we're going to go into hyperdimension now, and I'm going to blow your mind about this because when you realize that all of these men are Geminis, it takes things to a whole different level. Kodak Black, Gemini. Kendrick Lamar, Gemini. Kanye West, Gemini. And look at this. Kodak Black. Oh, that's Lamar Jackson. That's different. I thought it was Kendrick Lamar. He did not go to elementary school with Kendrick Lamar. He went to elementary school with Lamar Jackson. So that is irrelevant. But understand, there are 3 Geminis. And all of their names have the letter K. 3 Ks. Do you see the trolling now? 3 Ks. And they're all Geminis. 3 black Ks. They're trolling us. But it goes even one level deeper. Let's take a look at the significance of the letter K in their names. And this should prove to anybody watching that these 3 Gemini artists were given their specific names by a hidden hand, and they were given the names for a reason. Let's go into the chat, and you guys are going to decode the meaning of the letter K. Does anyone know yet? Do I have to give you a clue? I'm back in the chat. Okay. What is the importance of the letter K? Let me give you a clue. What letter of the alphabet is the letter K? What number? There you go. Dick Flinghammer got it. 11. And what is 11? It's a pair, a Gemini pair of ones. So literally, these rap artists were probably given their names to play a role as their Gemini birth date suggests. And somehow they are tethered to other Geminis, which is Trump, to be used as puppets to further degrade the image of black people. Wow. Now, of course, the most glaring example of allowed power for future demolition is, of course, Diddy. I don't know what his sign is, but the whole story is self-explanatory. Where do you think Diddy learned how to do what he did? You think he just came up with, oh, I'm going to put drugs in the champagne bottles for the girl, you know? You think he just came up with this? It reeks of something else, doesn't it? Now, I'm going to make a further point here, and this is hopefully going to tie it all in together. Think about how far black culture has fallen. Do you guys remember Motown? Do you remember Motown? Intelligible, thoughtful talent. There was dance, beautiful lyrics that brought the races together. What happened to that? Where did it go? I remember watching like the Grammys way back then, and I felt good. I felt proud to be an American. And I was like, wow, we have some talent. I felt proud to be black. Just like a white person should be proud when you see a white person doing something really cool, like rustling cattle or something. I don't know, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And then what did they do? What did we see happened? It was a controlled demolition of Michael Jackson, didn't they? They turned him into a clown and a freak in front of the whole world. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't do part of that to himself, and I'm not saying he didn't do what they accused him of. But the end result is he became a clown and a freak, either by his own devices or by the controllers. And they're the ones who are the real racists, not you and me, not on this level. We're just reacting to the programming. And ask yourself this: why aren't normal black people on display in front of the entertainment industry? Why are we getting only thugs, pimps, prostitutes, shady preachers? Why are they the ones being featured? You see how this proves my point? And where are all the lawyers and doctors and normal families and business owners that we see displayed by our white counterparts? Where did they go? Why don't we see this? When you watch Chef Ramsay, do you see successful black restaurant owners? Where are all the black millionaires and billionaires and corporate executives? Why aren't they shown in the stands at the Super Bowl? Why aren't there commercials about black American businesses? Do you see what they're doing? They're programming us for the controlled demolition. Now, do you see how this message brings us all together? White people and black people seeing how we're both being gaslighted? I hope you do. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. What's going on? What's going on? That's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you about today. I wanted to have a real discussion about all this. So understand, again, this isn't white pandering. This is me telling you the truth so that people can wake up and say something about it. Reject these people. Stop buying their albums. They're part of the controlled demolition. So all right. There you go. Critter Church got a black attorney once. Talented, honest, ethical guy. Why isn't he on a commercial? Right? You see the problem here? We're not seeing the good role models of black people. We're only seeing these clowns. And it's on purpose. Of course, there are black millionaires. And I'm not talking about the Obamas. And they don't necessarily have to be Democrats. All right, you guys. Well, I think tomorrow we're going to dig back into some of these Gemini, Janus, Trump videos we did because it's on full display now. We're seeing Trump 2.0. They're even admitting it. They even asked Trump on Air Force One, wow, your presidency this time is much different than the first time. And what was his answer? Oh, I've learned so much. Oh, and his other answer was, oh, because the first time the Democrats were all over me and I had to defend myself. And I wasn't able to do all this because I was in defense mode. That was his answer. So here we're getting part 2. And we can look at some of these old videos and see how accurate we were about our predictions all the way back to 2022 when nobody thought that Trump would ever come back. Nobody. They thought it was over for him. Yes, Natalie Jones. What's up? Casey, don't forget about Black MAGA. Yes. Yes, there is no color. Thank you. Yep, we're all different shades. Cover Time magazine. I think we covered that already, Bev, unless there's a brand new one. What does it have on the cover? Let me, and then maybe we can look at it now. All right. Now, I know Lupercalia is coming up, Valentine's Day. It's so crazy. I was like, wow. You know, everybody covers Lupercalia now, right? But if you go back on this channel, we actually had found all of the connections to all of the holidays, including Lupercalia. I think we were one of the first ones to do it. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm just saying if you don't see me upload something on Lupercalia, it's because now the word's out and everybody's covering it. But back in 2013, we were talking about what we saw were solid connections between Valentine's Day and Lupercalia. We noticed that part of the Lupercalia ritual, which occurs on February, I think it was 11th through the 12th through the 15th, 3 days, was the mixing of blood and milk, which turns pink, which is the Valentine's color. There's also Februa, which is from the word February, which was a piece of animal skin that was called a thong that they wore, which is, of course, is a popular gift on Valentine's Day for the more risque couples. And we talked about the sacrifice of the dog and the goat that occurs, and when they would chase each other through the streets naked. This was part of the fertility ritual of Lupercalia. We also covered when Justice Scalia was killed on Lupercalia. We covered that. So understand, just because we don't cover something, it's not because we don't know about it. And then we linked all of the ancient Roman festivals to our modern holidays. We found Liberalia, which relates to the Irish. I can't remember all of them now, but pretty much all of our holidays are linked to pagan rituals. St. Patrick's Day, that was it. St. Patrick's Day is Liberalia, which is all about drinking and toasting. So we kind of try to move on to other things once we've established truth that then spreads out to the rest of the truth community. You know, some of you hear it for the first time and you're like, whoa. And this is why we do the re-upload sometimes, to show you the origin of some of these things. So, all right, you guys, I guess we're going to pop off here. I'm going to go back through the library here to see what I can find about Gemini and Janice and Trump and all that. I love each and every one of you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Much love.